Hello PBA 510 classmates and Dr. Erzog. My name is Shelby Pesek and my presentation today is on workplace flexibility. So Admiral John C. Harvey Jr., a commander of the U.S. Fleet Forces, spoke about flexibility at the Work-Life Legacy Awards in 2009. He said, "We recently reached a tipping point in the Navy where over 50% of all our people, both in the officer and lower ranks, are from the millennials. So this is an urgent question for us when you talk about retaining the talent you have to do the missions we are assigned. Now when we get into this work-life fit in a big way, we find that they are equally committed to the Navy, but also committed to their family. This is one of the reasons why we have gotten into this in a big way to help the Navy to be true to them so they can be true to both the career they want and the families that they love." So the military is thought to have very rigid procedures, but when a military leader stresses flexibility, it's hard for any other organization to complain that flexibility is too hard. So defining workplace flexibility. Flexibility is about an employee and an employer making changes to when and where and how a person will work to better meet individual and business needs. Flexibility enables both the individual and the business to be met through making changes to the time, location, and manner in which the employee works. Flexibility should be mutually beneficial to both the employer and the employee and result in superior outcomes. So when your employee is taken care of, the growth of the organization through productivity should increase. So my method in my research was an academic search database with Google search engine, and I discovered trends and issues within the Human Resources Department, and one of them mentioned workplace flexibility. Looking more in depth at this topic, I discovered that this is a decision that a lot of managers and HR personnel that are dealing with today. So some benefits that workplace flexibility can have is on the community. With greater workplace flexibility, your employees can become more involved in the community, school, and family events during traditional commuting hours. Next is the job and coworkers. This looks like the model of greater flexibility for the employees will produce greater productivity, which will create a higher morale and then increase job retention. Despite the recession, these winning employers are thriving. It even appears that they are thriving more so than most employers, says the CEO of Ryan LLC, a tax service company based in Dallas. He comments on the results following a focus on flexibility in his own firm. He says, "The most remarkable statistic, the one that I think I would share if I had one thing to share with any CEO thinking about workplace flexibility, is this. In 2009, in arguably the worst economic conditions in my generation, we posted record profits and record revenue, and then again in 2010, we beat it again." So with organization, it is flexible work arrangements are a big threat to other organizations. The 2010 Strategic Human Resources Management poll shows that above compensation, flexible work arrangements are the key to attracting and retaining good employees. In regards to the employees, their well-being and their work attendance and the fact that they have more control over their scheduling hours produces a higher well-being within employees, which will produce greater productivity. And it kind of goes in that cycle. But there are some cons with workplace flexibility. One is lack of cohesiveness with the coworkers. Because your workers aren't in the workplace at all times, sometimes it's difficult to create that bond between employers. Also with work intensification, fitting in a heavy amount of work in less time can create the next con, which is health risks. Health risks start happening when you increase the hours worked and the heavy workload, which is a con to workplace flexibility. Also communication, because the manager employees aren't meeting in the workplace as much anymore, they rely on technology for communication. And if the organization does not have the funds to have technology in this type of communication, then the organization will suffer for that. So there are different types of workplace flexibility. One is flex schedules. This looks like an employer creating their own schedule, scheduling hours, maybe front-loading a week or back-loading a week, depending on the employee's home life schedule. Also, reduced hours. This can look like part-time work or fitting in hours whenever you need to throughout the day. Flexibility in place of work looks like telecommuting, home-based telework, satellite offices, and remote work. This type of flexibility comes with a greater need for technology as well. Time off looks like longer breaks. A current trend is to offer vacation and personal time off and sick time as an integrated package. There is the Family and Medical Leave Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act that also help with time off. The FMLA covers military deployments of family members for time off, and then the ADA enables workers with disabilities to have accommodations for their time off that adhere to their disabilities. So why today more than ever do we need workplace flexibility? One is that we have a greater amount of millennials entering the workplace. Millennials will be discussed as Generation Y. So a study done by the Family and Work Institute explains that in contrast, 50% of Generation Y and 52% of Generation X are family-centric, compared with 41% of the baby boomer generation. 22% of boomers are work-centric, compared with 12 to 13% of other generations. So Generation Y, which are the millennials, more than ever are family-centric, focused on the family more than their work. And with this focus, there would be a greater need for workplace flexibility. Also, elderly care. Women are more likely, 40% more likely than men, to provide family care on a regular basis. 17% of workers in the workforce are currently providing elderly care. Almost 1 in 2 individuals in the workforce, 42% of nearly 54.6 million employees, have provided elder care over the past 5 years. So with the baby boom generation leaving the workplace, Generation X and Generation Y are starting to take care of their grandparents and parents. There's also been an increase of younger families in the workplace. An increase in younger families includes more time away from work since children are younger and the responsibility is greater. In 1975, 47% of mothers with children under 18 participated in the U.S. labor force. By 2007, 32 years later, that proportion had risen to 71%. So from 1975 to 2007, labor force of women with younger children increased by about 30%, which shows the greater need of workplace flexibility to go home and adhere to the needs of the younger children at home. Also, women in the workplace has increased. Attitudes about gender roles have changed significantly from 1977 to 2008, showing that attitudes about traditional gender roles have fallen. Originally, 74% of men thought women should stay at home with the children, but now that has fallen in 2008 to 40%. And also, originally, 54% of women in 1977 thought it was their role to stay at home with the kids, and now in 2008 it had fallen to 37%. So with the increase of women in the workplace, on top of the fact that they have young families and they are 44% more likely to take care of the elderly, this, with women coming into the workplace, promotes or shows that the workplace needs to change its flexibility options. So Families and Work Institute model of change. This model presents 8 principles that need to be implemented together and thought through depending on the needs of the specific organization. This model shows where the organization was, where the organization is today, and where the organization wants to go. And so these 8 principles are introduced in the following slide. So how to implement workplace flexibility. Managers and HR needs to look at changing the policy. They need to explore the different options that come with their different organizations and the needs that their employers need specifically. It also comes with training your managers and your HR personnel about workplace flexibility and all their options. The FWI 8 principles are as follows that need to be discussed individually and for the specific needs of the organization. So some real-life examples and success stories with workplace flexibility comes from Corporate Voices and WFD Consulting's in-depth study of 5 organizations that implemented flexibility for their hourly and non-exempt workers. It showed that employee commitment was 55% higher for employees who have the flexibility they need compared to those who don't. The study also found that stress and burnout are 50% lower when employees have flexibility. Our second real-life example is from the CEO of Campbell Soup Company. He says that, interestingly, the more flexible we've been, the more caring we've been, the more supportive we've been of creating work options that work for people, while maintaining high standards of performance, and better we've performed. You can't win in the marketplace unless you win in the workplace, and you can't win in the workplace until you deal with the whole person. So when adhering to the employee's needs, then the workplace thrives, and then you can win in the marketplace, is essentially what the CEO is saying. So in conclusion, because of the recent trends with millennials, women in the workplace, younger working families, and workers dealing with elderly care, policies need to change to represent the tides of the generation that the workplace has now entered. With the increase in technology, it is vital that managers take advantage of flex options such as telecommuting, to name one, in order that they keep the best employees no matter their family situation. And to quote FWI, this is a call on to focus on workplace flexibility as a powerful strategy, to promote better outcomes for employees and employers, and to not look at it just as a perk or a benefit of a job. It's important that workplace flexibility moves from for organizations looking at it just as a benefit of the job, but rather as a necessity aspect, or an essential aspect to an organization in order that it can thrive. Because when we focus on our employers and their work life and their schedule, then it will show in their productivity, and then it will increase the growth and success rates of the organization implementing these flexible workplace options. Thank you.